Throughout the decorated history of WWE, there have been some executive decisions which have caused great controversy. Although there is usually a mixed reception to most WWE booking decisions, fans are in agreement that certain segments went too far. They go beyond entertainment and push the boundaries on what's acceptable. There have also been instances where the WWE has made some decisions behind the scenes which have had lasting damage on their reputation, with some fans choosing to never forgive WWE chairman Vince McMahon for his often tasteless business decisions. But which times were they? Well, join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 of the most unforgivable things WWE ever did. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 10. Firing Nia Jax whilst on a mental health break. It came as a huge surprise when it was announced in early November 2021 that Nia Jax had been released from the WWE. Nia was regularly featured on television and she was a former Raw Women's Champion. Fans assumed that Nia was invincible, mainly thanks to her relation to Roman Reigns and The Rock, but this clearly wasn't the case. It surfaced shortly after Nia's release being made public that at the time of her release, Nia was taking a mental health break from television as she had a lot of personal problems that she needed to conquer. This meant that WWE decided to fire one of their talents whilst they were on this important break. This led to widespread criticism from WWE fans online, with some fans stating that WWE was simply kicking Nia while she was down, and some even suggested that it highlighted how little WWE cared about their talent. Number 9. The Montreal Screwjob. The Montreal Screwjob is well documented for being one of the most controversial moments in WWE history. Even though it happened back in 1997, it is often cited for being one of the worst things WWE and Vince McMahon have ever done. Now, for those not aware, Bret Hart was set to leave WWE for WCW. He was the reigning WWE champion heading into the Survivor Series main event showdown with Shawn Michaels, and beforehand, Vince had planned to screw Bret out of the WWE title just in case he took it to WCW. The match was initially supposed to end in a DQ, with Bret keeping hold of the WWE title and then apparently wanting to surrender it after the match. However, Vince, HBK and Earl Hebner were all involved in a secret finish which saw the match end as HBK put Bret in a sharpshooter. There was a lot of backlash from fans and WWE talent following the incident, and in relation to Bret, he would depart for WCW and he and WWE would be bitter enemies for the next 13 years. Number 8. Airing the Muhammad Hassan segment. On the July 7th, 2005 episode of SmackDown, Daivari went one-on-one with The Undertaker, and following the dead man's victory, one of the most insensitive moments in history occurred. Muhammad Hassan began to pray on the ramp, and this summoned 5 masked men as they were armed with clubs and piano wire and began to choke The Undertaker out. Following this attack, the masked men lifted Daivari above their heads and carried him away. Although the segment was taped a few days prior, it aired the same day as the 7/7 terrorist attack that took place in London. WWE were featured in all major news outlets, as it was beyond belief that WWE hadn't edited the controversial segment out when airing SmackDown in the US. The anger was so severe that WWE had to publicly release a statement on the matter and wouldn't dial down on their decision to air the segment. Kevin Dunn actually came forward and said, "We are proud of our product." Eventually, enough was enough, and UPN, which was the network which aired SmackDown, wanted the Hassan character dropped with immediate effect. WWE reluctantly agreed, and Hassan would eventually be written off WWE programming forever. Number 7. Firing CM Punk on his wedding day. Following the Royal Rumble in 2014, CM Punk walked out of the WWE. He had simply had enough and was struggling both mentally and physically with his position in the company. This completely damaged the relationship between Punk and WWE, and there was a lot of bad blood between the two parties. On 13th June 2014, Punk would marry AJ Lee in what should have been the happiest day of their respective lives, but on the day of their wedding, Punk received official documents to state that he was officially fired from WWE. Although this could have been a clear coincidence, it was clearly deliberate, and WWE wanted to hurt Punk as much as possible. Chairman Vince McMahon would publicly declare that it was an unfortunate coincidence, and he did apologize to Punk, but fans believe that firing Punk on his wedding day was completely malicious. Number 6. Allowing Hulk Hogan back into the Hall of Fame. When Hulk Hogan's racist rant was leaked for the world to hear, everyone was angry. Hogan was a beloved figure in the world of professional wrestling and pop culture, and to hear him say such vulgar things was hurtful to say the very least. WWE acted promptly by removing Hogan from any of their planned programming, and this coincided with them removing him from the WWE Hall of Fame. Just a few years after Hogan's removal from the Hall of Fame, WWE slowly reintroduced him back into the mix. Following an apology which Hogan delivered backstage to talent, he would begin to appear on WWE programming again and was even allowed back into the Hall of Fame. In 2019, it was announced that Hogan would be inducted into the Hall of Fame for a second time, this time as part of the NWO. Fans were disappointed with how the WWE were willing to present Hogan on WWE television again as if nothing happened. It was as if the WWE wanted the controversy surrounding Hogan to die down and then they would happily bring him back into the WWE family once again. Number 5. COVID Mania. WWE's handling of the global pandemic was rather controversial. This began at WrestleMania 36 as a lockdown was issued, meaning that fans wouldn't be allowed to attend WrestleMania, which was to take place in Florida. Now, although WWE were advised by key people, including the US government, to cancel the event, they insisted that the show went ahead. They decided to air the show from the Performance Center in front of 0 fans. This put all talent and backstage personnel at risk of the COVID-19 virus, and it was seen by many as too big of a risk for WWE to take. Also during this time period, WWE released a ton of superstars. The global pandemic made life difficult for everyone, and for a company which was bragging about record financial numbers, releasing so many performers provoked anger and resentment from fans. Number 4. The Blackface segment. One of the most infamous moments in Raw history took place in the summer of 1998. DX would come to the ring to impersonate the Nation of Domination. However, the reason why the segment is so infamous is because X-Pac would wear blackface to try and impersonate Nation member Mark Henry. WWE knew the segment was too far, as in 2021, the segment was removed from the WWE network and it finally looked like they were taking some accountability. Number 3. Exploiting Eddie Guerreros' death. Eddie Guerrero's untimely death in 2005 hit everyone hard. Eddie was a beloved member of the WWE roster and he had cemented himself as one of the most gifted pro wrestlers of all time. WWE's tribute show to Eddie was emotional and they did a great job in paying tribute to a true legend of the squared circle. Unfortunately, in the months to come, WWE would use Eddie's death to further storylines. In 2006, they utilized Eddie's memory in a storyline between Rey Mysterio and Randy Orton, and this saw Orton tell Mysterio that Eddie was in hell. This was a storyline that made both the fans and Orton himself extremely uncomfortable. In the summer of 2006, Mark Henry would declare during a promo that he spits on the Guerrero name, and if Eddie was here, he would spit on him too. Using Eddie's name in this manner was exploitative and offensive, and fans of Eddie have never truly forgiven WWE for their actions in the months after his passing. Number 2. Vince McMahon says the N-word. The Survivor Series pay-per-view in 2005 is mostly known for WWE Chairman Vince McMahon uttering a racial slur in a backstage segment. In this segment, Vince used the N-word in front of WWE Champion John Cena as Booker T and Sharmell watched it in complete disbelief. Vince was heavily criticized for saying the word, and it's hard to fathom why he decided to say it, never mind air it live on pay-per-view. When Hulk Hogan was removed from the Hall of Fame in 2015, fans called on WWE to address why Vince was allowed to use the word back in 2005. This led to the WWE releasing a statement which stated that because Vince McMahon is a fictional character, it's not the same as Hogan's racist rant. The segment was eventually edited out of the network replay of Survivor Series, but it's still widely available online for fans to witness. And number 1, Over the Edge 1999. The Over the Edge pay-per-view in 1999 was one of the darkest days in WWE history. During the event, Owen Hart was playing a character known as the Blue Blazer, and he was supposed to ascend to the ring from the rafters in a special entrance similar to how Sting would enter the ring in WCW. However, Owen's harness line malfunctioned, resulting in him falling almost 80 feet to his death. It was one of the most horrific things to ever happen in WWE, and it happened on a live pay-per-view. The pay-per-view without a doubt should have been instantly brought to a close, but it wasn't, as Vince McMahon made the executive call to continue the pay-per-view. Vince did this as he believed that that's what Owen would have wanted, but Owen's wife as well as Bret Hart continued to condemn this decision. But there you have it folks, 10 of the most unforgivable things WWE has ever done. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.